Here's a tweet from a member of that Intelligence Committee, Illinois Democrat Mike Quigley, saying, "We are very disappointed. Nunes canceled hearing, suppressing answers, stirring confusion, keeping people in the dark, won't allow us to fulfill our mission," he writes. Congressman Mike Quigley is joining me now live from Chicago. Congressman, thanks for coming on with us. Those are some pretty strong words, alleging your colleague is trying to keep people in the dark, suppressing answers. You really believe that?
Well, let's look at the last 9 days. Director Comey said that there is an investigation into the Russia-Trump probe. He said that the Russians attempted to help President Trump's campaign and hurt Hillary Clinton's campaign. And then shortly, just before that, the President of the United States says his Trump Tower was wiretapped, and no evidence has come forth on that. Just a few days later, Chairman Nunes goes on some sort of late-night excursion where he says he witnessed evidence of such. And then just a few days later, he announces that the open hearing that was scheduled for this Tuesday is canceled. That's hardly a good week for a credible investigation.
But do you believe he's trying to suppress answers and keep information from the American public?
I think this is a twofold campaign by the leadership on the Republican side of the House and the White House. It is distraction and obstruction. There's no way you can account for all the actions that have taken place in the last 7 to 9 days. They have done nothing to help the investigation. There is zero reason to cancel Tuesday's meeting other than last week's public hearing went so horribly for them.
What was the reason Devin Nunes gave you for canceling the hearing this week, the public hearing?
He gave no reason directly to the Democrats. We spoke to the chairman, and then without telling us, he gave the staff 15 minutes notice that he was going to have this press conference where he announced the cancellation. There was absolutely no discussion beforehand as to why. There was no reason to cancel it. He said that there's going to be some other testimony. The two aren't mutually exclusive. He still could have had Mr. Clapper, Mr. Brennan, and Ms. Yates testify in front of the public so they could see additional evidence to what they saw in last Monday's testimony. Instead, because the public hearing didn't go well and the public mood is starting to focus against them, they decided to cancel. There is no other logical explanation for the extraordinary journey we've taken this last 10 days.
Congressman, it seems that this committee needs desperately to work together to get answers for the American people. Can this Intelligence Committee handle the investigation without becoming too partisan?
I don't know how the Democrats have been partisan. We are in the minority. We can't cancel a hearing. We can't go on a midnight excursion and say that we saw evidence that the president was somehow wiretapped.
So do you believe that this needs to be handed off to an independent commission?
Well, I think the two should work together. They have different abilities. Indeed, we should have an independent commission, and clearly we need an independent prosecutor. But the House and Senate Select Committees on Intelligence have abilities that the others may not. We meet in top secret fashion. Well, we meet in top secret fashion. We are privy to top secret information on an ongoing basis. We're going to have access to materials that others probably won't have. So after 9/11, there were a whole series of investigations. Each one had their own merits. We need to do the same.
Have you seen more than circumstantial evidence of possible collusion between the Russians and Trump campaign associates?
I think the best way for me to describe it as a former criminal defense attorney is this. There is probable cause to believe that there was coordination.
Can you tell us, I know you can't get into specifics in terms of the information itself, but does that evidence come in the form of papers, documents? Is it communications? Is it financial type of information?
I guess the best way to describe it is the totality of circumstances. And remember this, we are only at the beginning of this investigation. There are so many more documents to find, so many more people to interview. And to be honest, an investigation of this nature probably needs to take place on several continents.
Of course, because we're talking about potential ties with people in Russia and in that part of the world. I'm curious, when you
Eastern
were listening,
Europe.
and when you were listening to the hearing earlier this week that was public with Mike Rogers, the director of the NSA, as well as the FBI director, James Comey, what was the most significant thing you learned this week that we might have missed because you're on the inside?
I think the most significant pronouncement was that there was an investigation. That's virtually unheard of, that the FBI would make a public announcement of that. And that's the first thing Director Comey said. He also made the public pronouncement that the Russians attempted to help the Trump campaign and hurt Hillary Clinton's campaign. And finally, as it goes to the credibility that we talked about, he said there is no evidence that President Obama ordered the wiretapping of Trump Tower. In fact, he said no president has such power.
That's right. That's true. Did you find that it would be helpful to have a closed hearing to ask additional questions and probe in a way that might not be able to get the kinds of answers, the substantive answers, because of it being an open hearing? We understand that Nunes would like to have this closed hearing with the directors of the FBI and NSA later this week to ask more questions that might be classified of nature.
I think you need to do both. I think that while this is going on, and I said this is going to be a long investigation, there's absolutely no barrier to having both. You need a public pronouncement as we go forward of what exactly is taking place. Just imagine if Director Comey didn't have the opportunity to share what he did publicly. The American public simply wouldn't know. He said things that I could not have said publicly. I think we need to have a parallel track, a public and private investigation.
What are your expectations, speaking of public and private? Paul Manafort, Carter Page, Roger Stone, they agreed they would go before your committee. In fact, I know Carter Page has said, please make mine an open hearing. I'd love to testify publicly. What are your expectations to hear from them?
Yeah, there's a lot of details there that still have to be worked out. Are they going to be compelled to testify? Are they going to seek immunity? Are they going to testify under oath? These are
They're
important
saying, sure,
considerations.
no problem, bring it on.
No, they haven't all agreed to all of those details. I'd absolutely love to go forward. I don't think you begin that process by canceling the next public hearing. There are so many more people that need to testify. I'd be glad if they are willing to do so. Fantastic.
Does Devin Nunes need to step down from his position as the chairman of the Intelligence Committee?
He has to decide if he's going to have a credible. He has to decide if he's going to have a credible investigation. I suppose that's between him and Speaker Ryan. The Speaker is the sole person that puts him in that spot. He has to decide that he is not serving two masters here. The fact that he went to the White House with what he said was critical information as the chairman of the investigation involving Trump involvement with Russian cooperation is just unheard of. It's extraordinary. And the fact that he didn't share it with any of us before he did that, it just goes beyond the pale.
But you're not calling for him to step down?
That's, I'm going to leave that to Speaker Ryan and to Mr. Nunes himself.
And finally, has there been any date thrown out for rescheduling that public hearing that was supposed to be on Tuesday?
Not at all. And the hearing that was supposed to take its place has not been formalized in terms of date, times, and detail. I don't know what to expect next. We're heading to D.C. tomorrow morning. We're going to take it from there. The one thing we can't do is to let them off the hook. The fact that they're trying to slow and discredit this investigation, if we shut out the lights, no one is going to see what happened.
Congressman Mike Quigley, we hope you'll come back on. Please do keep us posted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ahead in the newsroom tonight, tragedy in Mosul.